of you have to demonstrate software or what you built across the world, maybe to people in other states at the same time, okay? So we're gonna talk to you about tips in doing even a virtual demonstration. So I'm gonna go through some slides, and then Don is gonna be my partner in crime, and we're gonna give you kind of a little mini panel where you can ask us questions, and we can share with you our war stories. So I used to head up the pre-sales at a team called, at a company called Adatum. Adatum was acquired by Cognos. It was the predecessor to Cognos Planning. We're telling how old I am now, but don't tell anybody. Right? So I used to train people how to do pre-sales, how to do the software demonstrations. And so today I'm going to share with you some of my 25 years experience learning the hard way so you don't have to. Okay? Oh, let me get my clicker out here. So I'm using some cool new technology, and we're hoping it's working. If you are going to present in a virtual environment and do people use WebEx or Zoom or something like that? Okay. What happens is if I'm presenting to a room of people, and I'm also on Zoom, and there's people all over the world, what happens as I walk around, which is more engaging, they can't hear me, right? So what I have is this cool lavalier USB port mic, which if you looked on LinkedIn, I put it on there the other day and said my new coolest tool. So what it's doing is it's able to give good sound to those people that are on Zoom. So if you're going to do that, invest in this like $100 mic on Amazon and make yourself sound good. Have you ever been on a webinar and people sound, you can't hear them? So frustrating, right? Most of the time you just log off, at least I do. Sound is essential to looking good. So if you're doing web presentations, get yourself a good mic. Okay? Even a snowball mic, something, a Yeti mic is even better, but sound good, okay? If not, you're gonna lose people, they're not gonna pay attention. Who needs to learn how to software demonstration? I think everybody. Okay. So anybody that is looking to increase the end user adoption and performance of technology. Because if you confuse people and you scare them, they won't wanna use it, okay? IT professionals, functional areas, deploying new tools, agile teams. How many of you use Scrum or agile methodologies? A couple. Those of you that do not have your hands in the air, your homework is to read a book called Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice as Much in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland. Okay? One of my favorite books. It's also on Audible. Jeff is a great guy, and you need to learn agile. We'll talk more about that later. Consultants, obviously, you need to demo what you're building, and anyone looking for funding for a project, which should be everybody, okay? The first thing you do is the requirements discovery with the Post-it notes that we talked about earlier. Here's one of our biggest problems. How many of you were officially trained in software demonstrations? Okay, we saw like 1 or 2 hands, right? And that's it. I studied finance and computer science in undergrad. I never had a class in how to demonstrate software. I never had a class in requirements gathering, which I'm hoping they're teaching today. But back then they didn't. We coded. We learned hexadecimal. We learned a simpler language, right? So this is not something that comes natural to a lot of people. So I'm going to give you my secrets. Why these skills are important. We want to increase end user adoption. Every one of you raised a hand earlier when we asked if you want to increase end user adoption. By the way, the trick to real end user adoption is speed. Deliver them faster results that they want. You're going to get more users asking for more. Secure funding for projects. Shows the results of your hard work. How many of you work hard and you want to show it, right? But guess what? If you're a bad presenter, it's like I make this gourmet meal and I put it on a paper plate. And most of you, sorry, that's how you're serving your meals. You build these awesome dashboards, but you didn't stop to practice. How many of you in the last year have had a presentation or needed to show people software and actually did a dry run, practice run? I see 2, 3 hands in the entire room, right? Every hand should be up. That's your time to shine. You want to get promoted? You want to get a raise? Shine, right? All you have to do is do a practice run and actually record it. And here's the hard part, play it back. And you're going to hate how you sound. You're going to be like, oh my God, do I really sound like that? You're going to learn that you say so or all the time. First way to cure it is to know you have a problem. So you're going to want to do that. It's an opportunity to personally look like a rock star. You want to gain your credibility in an organization? Practice and look good in a presentation. Now, how many of you love presenting and getting on stage? We have 2 hands, right? This is not a crowd that likes that, and I get it. I used to be like you. The other thing that Agile methodologies require a demonstration at the end of every sprint. You kind of show what you delivered. So once you guys get into Agile, like I already told you to do, you're going to want to be able to demonstrate this. And of course, selling ideas internally. The power of influence comes with showing and presenting in a persuasive format. Okay, what do most people fear? Oops. Oh, good, it didn't build. What do you guys fear? What do you fear most? Death? Marriage? What do you guys fear? Failure? Yeah? Spiders? I hate spiders. Snakes? Ooh, snakes are worse, right? So the top 10 phobias in the United States. Ready? Public speaking or stage fright is the top. 19% that say that is their #1 fear. Okay. Look, bigger than death. People would rather die than stand up on stage in front of a room full of people. By the way, 74% of people suffer from speech anxiety. They start sweating, start going all nervous, right? Some of you think that might describe you. Guess what? Public speaking is a muscle. I keep saying this, but this is just a muscle. It's practice, right? Some of Wozniak, right? He, obviously one of the founders of Apple, he used to be like the total nerd that couldn't speak. He's now doing speaking tours. If he can learn it, we all can learn it, right? So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, are you boring your audience? Have you guys ever done a demonstration and see people doing this? There's a couple techniques that you can change that up. I started it. I don't know if you guys noticed. I had you guys get up and meet someone else in the room because I wanted to change the energy. You can change the energy really, really quickly. You want to show how quick you can change your energy? Everyone stand up for a second. Go ahead and stand up. I'm going to teach you a trick. It also builds confidence before your presentation. If you're freaking out and you got to present to the board of directors and you're like, oh, and you need to get that confidence boost, that chemical, by the way, it's changing your physiology, your body chemistry. All you have to do is how many of you play golf? Anybody play golf? Okay, a couple hands. Whatever your sport is, think about it. If you play basketball, think about you're like, the buzzer's about to go, the game is tied, you're going to go up and shoot, and all of a sudden it's in the air, it's flying, and swoosh, you win the game, right? That you put yourself in that mindset. If you're a golfer, it's the 20-foot putt to win $1 million or win the Masters, okay? Now put yourself in that mindset. On the count of 3, we all have a move we make when we win something, okay? Mine is yes! That's it, that's what I do. Right? When I'm super excited, do my little, stand up. So everyone has it. Yours, Tiger Woods, does this. So all you have to do to change your chemistry, on the count of 3, everyone in the room is going to do it, so we don't look funny. It's going to change their chemistry. We're going to 1, 2, 3, and make your move. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes! Come on, you guys were awfully quiet. Let's try it again. That wasn't the greatest. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes! Now hold it. Okay, stop. Look around the room. Everybody is smiling, right? How do you feel? Feel pretty good, don't you? By the way, studies show, you can go ahead and sit down. Studies show if you hold that magic move that we all have for 60 seconds, you completely change your physiology. You're playing with your brain chemicals and giving yourself this boost of confidence it's like amazing charge. So before you're going to do a big presentation or ask your boss for a raise or have that tough discussion where you need a little extra confidence, go in the bathroom. I do not recommend doing this at your desk, especially if you're in a cubicle. They're going to look at you kind of funny. But go in the bathroom and just kind of hold your pose, changes your physiology, okay? Because you want confidence. You can do what I just did to change the chemistry of the room. Hey, I feel like we could all use a little bolt of energy before we get started today. Everyone stand up and do your move and watch what happens. People, when they're happy, are going to listen to you more. They're going to be engaged more. Okay? They want, especially if you have an afternoon session, change the energy. If they ate turkey, you're pretty much screwed. Right? That tryptophan. Okay, so a couple things about borrowing your audience. Don't show up and throw up. Okay? If you have not done proper requirements gathering, you're showing up and throwing up. I have prospects call me all the time. They're like, well, can you just show us the software? My answer is no. I don't want to waste your time or mine. And they're like, well, just show us. I heard it's really cool. I'm like, you know what? I could. I'll waste your time because you're going to need me to demonstrate again. How about we spend the time instead discovering your requirements? And then when I show you the software, you'll see how it meets your needs. It's a different conversation. If I showed you exactly what you wanted, let's take a restaurant example. Let's say we went to Capitol Grill, and I came out and I just put whatever I wanted to serve you on your plate. How would you feel? Well, I wanted the mac and cheese. Well, I gave you a steak. Your expectations weren't met or exceeded. You're disappointed, right? Because I didn't even ask you what you wanted. I just showed up and threw it up. Gave it to you, right? So most people do this in software demonstrations. You want to go sell an idea. Let's say you bought Cognos years ago, you implemented it, it was successful, and they're thinking about using it in another department. Anybody have this experience? All the time, right? Who do you have demonstrate the software then, usually? They say, Bob, just come on down. Can you show us what you've done? Right? That's when you say, you know, I could, but how about we spend some time understanding what you need before you do that? If you can directly serve them what they're looking for, they're going to see you're a strategic partner. If you show them stuff that was built for finance and doesn't apply to what they need, what's going to happen? Well, that tool doesn't meet our needs. Let's go look at some other third-party software that, by the way, you're going to have to start supporting that too later, right? When those functional departments buy software, they go rogue. Who has to support it? Right? IT at the end of the day. Feature functionality overload. If you do the requirements discovery first, you can show them only the top things they need to see. By the way, 90% of our software is stuff they don't need to see. So I'm seeing some heads nodding. Some of you have been in these trenches with me, right? You overload them, but guess what happens when they start nodding? The executives are like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what we need. What happens next? You shut up! Stop talking! When they say, I'm buying it, I love your ideas, you're like, great, let's talk about how we start this project rolling. You do not show any more feature. Oh, but there's some more cool stuff I want to show you, right? By the way, after they've already said yes, there's only one place to go from there. To the no, right? You can't go from a yes to a super yes. It doesn't exist. But you can go from a yes to a no. You overwhelm them with feature functionality, and you will go yes to no. You'll lose your funding. Project dead. Monotone voice. How many of you have children? Most of the room. Have you ever read them a bedtime story? Do you use an animated voice like the witch came out of the cave, and you're like all animated, right? If you read it monotone, what would happen? They'd be like, I don't like that story. Your audience is the same way. Your voice should be like you're singing. It has different inflections, speeds. You want to make something suspenseful? Bring it down and whisper a little bit. Now they're like, ooh, something, what are they saying, right? Play with your voice. Forgetting to include the audience. So I've done this a number of times to you guys, and you may not know it. There's this magical thing I learned at the world's greatest speaking academy called Bounce. And I'm going to give you this gift. And you're going to want to take this with you. There's this thing called Bounce. When I'm giving a presentation and I say, you know when you, and I fill in the blank. So let's just try it. You know when you were a kid and, you know, your dad, you really wanted to do something, but you knew your dad was going to say no. Right? How many of you are visualizing your dad in your head right now? Right? You can't not. So I brought you into my story. And now you're part of it. You're actively listening and engaged because I brought you in. So its simple formula is, you know when, or do you remember when, and you're bringing them into your story. It's called bounce. Make sure you do that about every 3 minutes with your audience. Statistics show you will keep them engaged. Okay? Bring them into your story. So here's a quick framework. I'm going to go through this really fast so we have time for some kind of what lessons we've learned. There's a framework, right? The first part of this framework is the foundation is the audience. Know who you're presenting to. Here's an example. A number of years ago, we had a client. They were an old planning client. We're talking years ago. A cognitive planning client. They got a new CFO. The new guy had been there about a year. And they said, Heather, can you come in and demonstrate the cognitive planning solution to him? Because he's starting to question what it's doing and so forth. I said, yeah, great. Give me a little background about him. Well, don't worry, he's not going to stay the whole meeting. I'm like, what? We scheduled the meeting for an hour, but don't worry, he never stays more than 15 minutes. He's like one of those guys. I go, wait, so he's always on his phone? Oh, yeah. She goes, it seems like he's not paying attention, but he is. At this point, I'm high-fiving myself. I know this guy. He's me. His ADD is off the charts. And I'm all excited, right? Because I got this one. So if you deal with people like this, here's the secret in knowing your audience. How many of you have an executive that you work with that seems like they're never paying attention and they have that ADD thing going on, right? We all know someone like that. Well, here's the trick. You present at their speed or faster. You jump all over the place with them. You don't care about anyone else in the room but that executive that's going to make the decision. So we get in the room, there's about 40 people in the room. The one executive is in the back. Everyone else, I start moving at warp speed. You think I talk fast now? Just imagine this, right? And I'm going, and all of a sudden he starts asking questions. And we're bouncing like a freaking Super Ball all over the place. And everyone else in the room is like, what's going on? He stayed for an hour and 25 minutes. We got up, we ended the meeting, we walk out, and Kim goes to me, what just happened? She's like, he's never stayed more than 15 minutes. I said, my ADD made him comfortable. ADD people, we are very uncomfortable when people talk slow and go through this whole process. We're like, come on, speed it up. So know your audience, right? Speed that stuff up and go at their speed if they're the decision maker. So you got to know your audience. You got to ask them what their biggest challenge is and tie that into how your solution, what you're delivering, is going to solve that, right? Going back to knowing the strategic goals will help, guys. Then you're going to create the storyline. Make every presentation a story and wrap it in. Okay? You don't show up feature functionality. You say, you know how we have this problem in finance where we do this, this, and this? Well, today I'm going to show you how we solve this, a day in the life of, and walk them through it. And then you do the demonstration. By the way, the demonstration, to win it, if you've done the foundational work and to make sure you get that project funded and the users all excited, super simple if you practice the presentation part, because you've done the foundation work already. So you know your audience, your storytelling. Foreseeable objections. You want to make sure ahead of time you go, well, Bob's going to say this, and Mary, she's going to say this. But we don't have a data warehouse. Okay? That's all, you're going to get that. And what you want to do is, before the demonstration, overcome those objections. So I'll show you how in a minute. At the end of the day, practice, practice, practice. Videotape yourself. And I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you a scorecard. By the way, you really want to get good? You want people to think you're on the rise in your organization? Before the presentation, if it's an internal presentation, say, you know, Ronald, I'm really trying to improve my skills doing presentations. I know today you're going to sit in my presentation. Can I give you a scorecard and you rank me and give me some feedback on how I can make myself better? They're like, wow, that's someone I want to be around, right? They're impressing me already. So we'll give you a scorecard on that. Going deeper in the audience, we're going to skip through this a little bit because we talked about it in the earlier presentation. Know who there's attending and what their pain is. Here's an example of an internal pain. You guys might know our big problem is we don't have a data warehouse, right? But our external pain, the pain your users are seeing, is they don't have good reporting. So what are you selling when you're presenting? You're selling how you're solving their external pain. You're not selling, I need a data warehouse. Because what they hear when you say data warehouse is money, 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 time, 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 never, never deliver. So you're going about it and solving the problem in their head, the voice in their head. Remember requirements discovery, not gathering, active listening, we talked about that. Active listening, one of the tricks here is when you ask them something, repeat it back. So this is what I understand. And can I repeat this back to make sure I didn't miss anything? If you don't do that every day, start now. Because what's going to happen is they're going to be like, yeah, you got that right. Oh, but I didn't tell you. As professionals, we hate to hear, oh, did I tell you? Because that means they didn't tell us. Right? Always. Lawyers and consultants and BI professionals, we don't like to hear, oh, did I tell you? Again, try the first demonstration where your requirements discovering is on paper. If you're virtual, turn your web cameras on, people. They will connect with you a lot more. People want to do business with people. They want to give you funding if they trust you. If you're the voice behind the computer, they don't know who you are. I know. How many of you love going on camera? Not one hand, nor do I, right? But I do it because I find it makes a big difference. And when I turn that little camera on, all of a sudden I notice some of them turn it on. And yes, we look like the Brady Bunch and we're all in little squares and want to do, this. But what happens is now I can tell when I'm losing them or not when they're virtual. When they crumple the forehead, I'm like, ooh, I better back up a little bit. Not getting it. Or when they get excited, I'm like, oh, that's a point, I gotta remember that one. 93% of all communication is nonverbal. Now, some of that's voice and tonality, which you can hear on the phone, but a lot of it is this, right? I always say I can communicate better with my dog than most people because he's very expressive, right? You can tell just by what they're doing. Well, that tells you how much nonverbal we process in our world. Telling the story, people remember stories. History has been explained for decades or millennia in stories, right? So start to incorporate stories into your presentations. Start with the pain you are solving in the eyes of the audience, not in your eyes. Your eyes are very different. Your problem is not a data warehouse, although you know it is. True story, I had a client years ago. The CFO came to a Cognos event with me and saw dashboarding and loved it. Was like, oh, I want that, I want that. He comes back and he's all excited. And I said, well, let me talk to the CIO and we'll work this out. I call up the CIO, who, by the way, was a former Russian rocket scientist, so no dummy. And I said, so do you support this program? He goes, absolutely not. I'm like, what? You get new tools. You get, this is like a new car, new toys. Why wouldn't you support this initiative? And he goes, because I need a data warehouse. I said, okay, valid point. I said, so what have you done to try and get that? He said, I've asked for funding for 5 years. 5 years I've asked for funding. Every year the CFO says no. I said, well, if I can get you funding, will you support this project? He goes, absolutely, this would be a blast. I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we literally scripted this out. And I told him, make sure you have your facts and figures. How much is the data warehouse going to cost? What's the timeline? Everything. Have that in your back pocket. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show the software. And I'm going to say to the CFO, this is what you want, right? And he's going to say, yes, absolutely. And I'm going to turn to you, the CIO, and say, do you support this? And you're going to say no. And then we're going to go through this process, right? So we do this, and literally, he says no, and the CFO is like, why? And he goes, because if I gave you pretty dashboards with the wrong data, I could bankrupt this company. And I'm pretty sure you and I don't want to do that. The CFO is like, oh, well, how do we solve that problem? He goes, I just need a data warehouse. He goes, huh, is that why for the last 5 years you've been asking for funding for a data warehouse? The CFO had never put it in context. He didn't know what was in it for him. So where the CIO had failed is to put it in his eyes. Once he did that, within the whole meeting took about 40 minutes. In 40 minutes, I got him the funding for his data warehouse, all approved, and the Cognos project to move forward. And the CIO was like, what just happened? I'm like, you got what you want, buddy. You just had to frame it in something that meant something to the CFO. By the way, always play to the CFO. Why? Because they got the money. We love the money guy or gal, right? Figure out how it can make or save the company money, and you will get funding. Start at the end of the story when you're demonstrating software. Today, I'm going to show you blah, blah, blah. It's been our experience, and in our research, our challenge has been blah, 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 right? I'm telling them what I'm going to tell them first at the end of the story. I'm going to show you this dashboard that will do this for us. And then you show them, and at the end, you tell them what you just told them. Okay? If you just jump in and start showing technology, what happens? All they're thinking about, why am I looking at this? What is this going to do for me? I really am hungry. I wish I had lunch. Right? The brain goes off. So make sure you're framing it of what the problem you solve and start at the end of the story. I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to make or save the company $1.2 million today. How many people are listening? Do you see the difference? Learn the balance. I've already talked about that. You know when you bring them into your story. Your voice is your instrument. Leverage analogies. Again, every story I just give you is stories that I'm gifting to you. If you're having a challenge communicating something technical, email me. I love to come up with new analogies. Sometimes they're not the best. And you see people and it goes, wah, wah, wah. But keep playing with them. Refine them. Less is more. Again, when someone says this is awesome, I love it, I want it, you shut up and sit down then. Right? Don't keep going. You want to address the conversation in their head. And here's just a quick example. If I'm presenting to the CFO, they may say, I already get the reports I need. Why do I need to spend money? Has anyone heard this before? Okay, about half the room is nodding or raising their hand. So how I would say that ahead of time, I'm like, Bob's going to say this. So I'm going to be like, it requires significant hours to compile in the reports, leaving no time for analysis, and maybe I'll add and questionable data accuracy. Because you know CFOs, we have to have data accuracy or we go to jail, right? So I don't have that, so I'm ready to go for it. I'm thinking about, and then you want to make this a step further. You say, you know, you may be thinking right now, why do I need to spend the money? I'm already getting the reports I'm getting. When I do that to someone, they're like, are you seriously reading my mind? Try actually saying that out loud. You may be thinking, I'm going to address the objection head on. Now they're connected with me. Gosh, she thinks just like I do. I like her already then, right? IT manager, I don't know if our end users are ready to handle these advanced tools. I think they'll continue to use Excel. You know, you may be thinking our end users aren't advanced enough, but one of the strategic goals of the company is to advance their skills so we can become a technology-savvy organization. And what our studies find is that getting them involved early in new technology will increase the end user adoption and make them comfortable. I've already addressed it, bam, head on. You guys see how you do that? Okay, so one thing I notice when people sell ideas internally, they forget the most important part, and that is the call to action. Okay? The call to action is what you want them to do. Okay? I show this awesome demonstration of these cool things that I built that met their exact needs because we did requirements discovery. And I forget to say, so we need this project approved, or we need this to go to capital committee, or whatever the next step is. But a lot of people just go, that was a great meeting, I'll follow up with you later. And guess what happens? Nothing. You ask for nothing, you get nothing. You get just what you asked for. So what you want to do is make sure you tell them specifically, have a call to action screen. What do you want them to do, and when do you want them to do it by? By the way, if you don't put deadlines on this, what happens? This thing called life floats in and causes everything to be delayed, right? So you're saying, we need this addressed by this date. because maybe we're trying to get TM1 software. We really want to pull the trigger on the software so we can start implementing and make our August budget launch. Start to put timelines. So that means I need a decision by the end of this month. Who needs to involve? Well, therefore, we need to go to capital committee because this is over our $50,000 threshold or whatever, right? So I need to know who's on the capital committee. I have a client that the capital committee is this mystery group. Nobody really knows who's on it, which is crazy to me, but they do that on purpose. But it's just, you're like, hey, I got to know that this gets submitted. Validate the next. So I believe here are the next steps we need to do. What happens when those aren't the next steps? They'll tell you. And now you at least don't spend months going down the wrong road. Okay, do the practice, 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 practice. I had a client that was merging. They were actually buying up a bigger company than them and merging. And the other company had competitive tools to Cognos, and they really wanted to keep their Cognos. So they were going to fly out to California and do this great presentation. And I said, okay, great. How about you do a dry run with me? And they go, what? I go, well, all your expertise and experience and you looking good depends on this presentation. How about we do a dry run? They started laughing. They go, we didn't even think about doing a dry run. We just mocked up some dashboards. I'm like, yeah, but you weren't going to practice the presentation part? And they kind of laughed. They're like, we didn't even think about it. So this is the most important part. Record yourself and score yourself. Be real. How did you flow? Did you bounce? Go on camera. Practice that, especially if there's going to be virtual people. Every time you think everyone's going to be there, someone's kid gets sick or something, they're going, I'll log in, right? They always do it. Do dry runs with colleagues. I had one client, we were trying to sell them Cognos, and we actually had the client do the demo. It was awesome. They were so engaged in the requirements discovery, and they were like, can I do the demo for the executive team? I'm like, heck yeah, I'll stand in the back of the room. You can do my job for me. Right? And they talked about the business problems. How credible did that come off? You're trying to get marketing to do a new BI dashboard? Have the marketing people do the final demonstration that you built. They're like, this is why we need it. They're telling the executives they need funding for a project they're presenting. Your wingman. Okay, so wingman is really important. What's a wingman? Anybody tell me? The person that covers your keister when shit happens, right? Here's how this rolls. Last night when I was doing these decks, I sent a version to Zach. Why? Because my laptop could crash. And it has many times in the worst timing ever, right? So what could happen? Zach could plug in his laptop, we could rock and roll, right? What happens when I'm up here and doing a demonstration and like bad stuff happens? I look at Zach, he senses that that's happening, and he stands up and he starts asking a question. Because what's going to happen when Zach stands up and asks a question? Your heads are all going to turn around and start looking in the back of the room while I fix what's going on. Right? That's the oh shit factor. So you got to have a wingman. If you're doing a virtual demonstration, have a wingman at each location. Right? Maybe you have clusters, like 5 people in a conference room all over the world. Nominate one person at each location to be their primary representative. So they can say, hey, we're having technical difficulties here, or I think we might have some questions here in Spain. Can you hold on a second? Right? Because you can't see them most of the time. Failure to practice is practicing to fail. Okay, so I'm going to send you, if you guys sign up on our website, the link I gave you earlier, I'll give it to you again. I will give you this scorecard that I've developed. I use this on myself. I'm like, did I leverage the bounce? Did I give them stories? How did I do 0 to 10? Give this scorecard to the people that are watching your demonstration ahead of time and just say, I'm really trying to improve my presentation scores. I know I'm not very good at it, but I'm practicing. They will welcome the opportunity to give you information. We talked about make your move. You guys did that. Practice, know your story. And then here's the thing. Have a PowerPoint so you can walk through it, because confidence is key. So I also, like when I'm doing a demonstration, I will take screenshots of the solution. So if my connection fails, the server drops, something happens, I don't want to waste especially executives' time. Because what happens the first time you waste their time? Do you get that second meeting? No. You got one and done. So I have a PowerPoint presentation that I'm like, you know, clearly we're having technical difficulties today. The server must be down. But have no fear. Let me just bounce. This isn't going to be live and interactive, but I'll walk you through what my presentation was. By the way, if you have a bad thing and you recover like that, you look like an amazing rock star. Years ago, I was doing a demonstration back when I worked for Lawson Software, and I was doing to a room of 100 people for American Cancer Society back in the day. And some telephone company or something cut a line, and I had no connection to my server. I had nothing. I was drawing pictures of the screen. This is before I knew better. I didn't have screenshots. I was drawing pictures on a whiteboard. Well, you would have this screen, and then we do this, this, and this. And we finally took a break, and I go to the bathroom to just like debrief a little. And this woman walks in, and she goes, I got to tell you. She goes, I can tell this is one of the most stressful days of your life. She goes, but you're doing really well, right? She's like, you're recovering. Everyone's watching how you're handling it. And we're like, wow, I wouldn't want to be her. Remember, everyone else fears public speaking, too. So if you have that PowerPoint, and you're like, boom, back up. Even better yet, if you're practicing and recording your demonstration, guess what you do? Let me play a recording of my practice demo. And it shows them everything you were going to show them anyway. Again, you look like a rock star. The demo recording also is great for a follow-up. Hey, just wanted to, you know, these were the highlights of the meeting. Here's the call to action. And by the way, if you want to go watch it again, here's a recording. The follow-up is key. And make sure you assign that wingman. Has anyone ever had a software demo disaster? You ever had the system crash on you? You feel like you feel like you're in one of those Southwest time to get away commercials. You know, you're just like, seriously, this is the worst day. So I'm going to teach you what I've learned, and any of the pre-sales or people, please share your ideas on this too, because we want to help all of you avoid this, right? One thing, oh my God, I just did this, this, and this. Like so many people, when they screw something up, they highlight their mistakes, right? I'm not going to highlight my bad features, and you don't want to either. Okay? Cover the screen. When bad things happen, actually this screen's kind of interesting because it has a little button here. I can say that like a cover-up button. But even if you're doing on a regular projector or in Zoom, stop the presentation, stop the screen share. Fix it. Don't let them see the back end of everything that you're getting. Oh, let me go into the back end and show you all that. No, cover that screen. Even if you cover it with a notebook. The wingman should be doing their job, and you tell the wingman their role. If things aren't going well, Zach, you got this, right? Just start asking random questions. I don't care what you ask. Stand up and ask questions, because I need the focus off of me. Call a timeout. When it's really bad, say, guys, clearly I'm having some technical difficulties. How about we take a 5 or 10 minute break? So you can fix it, you can breathe, they respect that. Watch out though, if it's a short meeting, you're not gonna get them back in the room. So that's, like if you have a longer half day event, you can get away with that. We already talked about PowerPoint and video. Have the video also on someone else's laptop and the PowerPoint and your presentation, right? Because that's just like the stress reliever. And how many of you have done that before? Has anyone had the backup stuff? How many of you have had to use it? Okay, so just to make sure everybody that's watching the video, everyone that raised their hand that said they've done it have had to use it. Okay, so that's 100% of the people that do this. If you demonstrate or have enough presentations, you will need this backup stuff. A virtual demo. Everybody in this room at some point will probably have to give a virtual demonstration. Someone in Uzbekistan or somewhere in like Sweden, and a couple things on that. One, know the nationality of the people that you're talking to. More importantly, whether the English is their native language. I gave a demonstration once, a room of 50 people, and they all flew in from all over the world. And I'm like the Energizer Bunny. I'm like, oh, today we're gonna go right? And all of a sudden, the key guy in the back of the room is like, slow down. He's waving his hands real slowly, like, slow down. I forgot that everyone in the room is translating from English back to their native tongue in their head. And I was talking like a million miles an hour. And I started laughing. And what did I do? I just called it out. I go, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I just realized half of you are translating this right now, aren't you? And they're like, yes. I'm like, how about I slow down a little bit? They're like, thank you. You make a screw up. Sometimes it's just like, accept it. You know, don't have to hide something like that under the rug. Know your technology. If you're going to use Zoom, don't make this the first time you use Zoom. Right? Play with it first. A good microphone with a pop filter. Pop filter is this little mesh screen that you put in front of the mic, and it clears up some of the sounds, like the P's and the S's sound crisper when you have a pop filter. It costs like, I don't know, 15 bucks on Amazon. Go on camera. When you're virtually demonstrating, if you're sitting at your desk and doing it for a whole group of people, go on camera. But here's a couple things about camera angle. My laptop is, I love it. It's a Dell laptop, but it's worst designed camera because the camera, let me see if I can lift this up for you. The camera is right down here in this little corner. Now, I don't know about you guys, but the nostril shot is not good on anybody, right? When you got this thing where you got 6 chins and you're seeing up someone's nose, that's not what they want to see. So what I actually do is I take my laptop and I put it on a stack of books so that I get the good selfie angle, right? You want to look good. You don't want people going, oh, you know, gosh, they're not looking that good today. Check your backdrop, the lighting. Okay? You can buy really expensive lights or even just take the light shades off. If you're working from home, take the light shades off your light. Brighten it up. You're going to look better. Watch the background. If you have like books of controversial nature in the background, you probably want to remove those. You don't want to be like that guy, I think he was interviewed on CNN, and his naked kids go running like in the backgrounds, and the nanny's like chasing them. Like, you don't want to be that guy or gal. And also watch your coffee mugs. I'm always shocked when people have these coffee mugs that someone gave them on their 50th birthday, and they're drinking out of it, and you're like, that's probably not what you want. You wouldn't have brought that to work. Don't bring it to the virtual meeting. Size matters. Make the screen. Ask them on their screen what the resolution looks like. I've been on web demos where someone else was doing it, and it's so microscopic, I can't see anything. So sometimes they have to tweak their display settings, the person that's presenting. So just ask them. Sometimes people are, you need them to tweak it on their end, but they don't know how. So you have to guide them through that. Designate moderators at each location. We've already talked about that. So demo checklist. When you guys log in to this URL, loadstarsolutions.com/BI roadmap, that's the same one I used in my earlier presentations. I will give you, when you sign up, there will be an email, and we'll have 3 attachments to the email. One will be this demo checklist. This is just my version of a checklist to say this is the stuff I need to do before I do a demonstration. Okay? It just gives you the reminder where you can literally check it off. I like checklists because if I don't, I forget a step along the way. So I have that for you. So your call to action, see, I practice what I preach. Your call to action is sign up at that URL, and there it is again. Get the demo checklist and the scorecard, and do me a favor, make sure your next demonstration, you practice before you give it. You're going to watch the difference in how you feel. And actually, here's another trick that I do for people, and I'm going to try it on you guys. How are you feeling right now? 0 to 10. 10 being I'm like really excited, having an awesome day, and 0 meaning like just kill me now, right? So everyone, I want to see a show of hands. When I call out the number that you're at, just raise your hands, okay? So what I'm doing here is I'm getting a barometer of the room. By the way, if I start a demonstration and everyone's like at a 2, and at the end of the presentations I'm even at a 5, I consider it a win, right? But you need, if you start the presentation and your key decision maker is at a 0, I would call it out. I'd say, hey, Frank, I noticed you had a 0. Should we reschedule this? Because they may have something else going on. Do you see what I just did? He's going to love it. Do you mind? Well, if Frank's the only guy I care about, all I care about is Frank, I will reschedule that meeting. Right? So let's try this. 0 to 10, 10 being extraordinary. When I call out the number, just raise your hand. How many of you are at 0? Hopefully nobody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? Yay, got a couple 10s. So what I'm doing is I'm getting a sense for the room, right? If everybody is really low, you call and say, there was something else going on. Should we reconvene? Why demonstrate? If someone just had their dad die and they're the key decision maker, I probably don't want to do a presentation that day. I'd rather let them cancel it. Do you guys think you could use that? Start the meeting off with it and see what happens. You also feel really good when they started out like at a 4 and you walk out and they're at like an 8. You're like, hey, I rocked it. Right? Okay, so practice, practice, practice. If you're feeling like a fire hose, I am actually creating a new demo training program that will be coming soon. So when you sign up, I'll send you a link to that to teach you guys some of this in more details and giving you actual exercises to practice. You want to become a strategic partner with the executives of the business. This is a key ingredient. You can either take the easy way, which is learn how to do this, or you can keep struggling. Okay, so that's my contact information. So,
discussion specifically on this with you or whoever's involved in that particular issue.
And then if that's on a whiteboard or on a chart, it's always there to revisit during them. It's not on the slide that we saw 2 hours ago, right? So we can always go back and say, did we hit this, did we hit that?
I'm a big fan of the flip charts, not the whiteboard, and the reason is because I can roll it up and take it with me. So when I draw, if there's a flip chart in the room, I'm drawing on the flip chart. Because what I'm going to do, and I don't know if you guys do this, but I found this super powerful, and if you do this internally or in your organization, you're going to look like a rock star, and that is I do say, hey, great meeting today. Here were the key things that we discussed. Here's what the call to actions were. And then below that, I'll put more detailed explanation of what we talked about. So like summary or synopsis, call to action, and then those people that love detail can read down below. And then I'll send them a link to the demo. Now what I've done is I've basically taken the notes that they should have been taking and I put it into their binders, like into their email stream. And they're like, wow, Heather really has her shit together. Well, really what it is I'm working with so many different clients, I can't remember from one to another. So if you're working with different departments, you're gonna be like, was it marketing that wanted that? But because I sent the review notes, I just look at my email, I'm like, oh yeah, it was this marketing group that wanted this. So it's really my own cover, my keister.
Yeah. So you also want to engage the audience regularly, as Heather mentioned.
So how many of you have experienced that? Right? Did you know who was going to hijack your meeting before the meeting? You always know who it is. So one of the things I will do is I will leverage them because I know they're going to do it anyway. So I will give them a role before the meeting. I don't know about you guys, but I'll sit down with them and I'll be like, Betty Lou, you are always so wonderfully vocal and you know, you always share great ideas. Now your nose might be growing like Pinocchio a little bit, but I said, you know, today's important meeting, this is what we're trying to get across. I'd like to hear your ideas. And then when you're presenting, you're like, if she has a really good idea, you're like, so one of the things that came up in our discovery sessions is Betty Lou said, blah, 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 blah. Because that person's main goal in life is what we call significance, right? That's why they're like, blah, 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 hijacking your meeting. But if you give them significance and put them on a pedestal, they're going to shine. Because if I say you're a great guy, people are going to believe it more than you standing up saying I'm a great guy, right? So by putting her on the pedestal, she's like, hey, I'm awesome. And she won't hijack the meeting so much. How about you guys? Any ideas on the hijackers? Sometimes you got to corral them and say, you know, Betty Lou, I think you have some very valid points, but we're really crunched for time right now. If you don't mind, I'd like to get us back on point, but how about you and I set a meeting up for afterwards so I can better understand your concerns. So sometimes you do have to corral them. By the way, when you do that, everyone in the room is high-fiving you. They're like, yay, you stop Betty Lou. Have you guys seen it happen? It's hilarious when it happens. You're like, they got her. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah. So I would watch how you set that expectation. Ask ahead of time. My plan is to show this, this, and this at this level. Is this what you're looking for? There's always somebody that's kind of championing this meeting. Someone called it. Get with that person, review, and say, this is what this is the level of detail that I'm going to. Are you comfortable with this? I actually do a preview with them. Everybody, I'm like, hey, let's do a dry run, see the preview. What things am I missing, right? Because they have a better judge on what that group will want. And at the end of the day, if they brought you in and said, hey, can you come in and show the rest of the executive team this? They're kind of your sponsor. So they'll give you a good idea what level, usually. Now, if they have that criticism, say, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. I thought I delivered the level you wanted, but I'd happy to record a webinar or a video that gives you more detail. I'll send a link to you guys. Would that work for you? Yeah, that'd be awesome. Any other questions? So did you learn something today? Does anyone not have one thing that they learned in this presentation that they can use? If so, I want to know who you are because I want to make sure I add value. By the way, I end a lot of demonstrations like this. I'll say to everyone, so was this a good use of your time today? Did you guys learn something or did we discuss a problem? Was this a good use of your time? Every time they're like, yeah. Some people will say, this was the best hour I've spent all week. Why do I do that? Pardon? I'm highlighting that I freaking rocked it. My job is to get promoted and get more money. There's no shame in asking them. And by the way, if they say, no, this wasn't, say, I'm sorry, I missed the boat. What were you looking for that I didn't deliver? See the difference? So consider using that as your ending because it works every time. Because they're like, oh, that was so great. I had one CFO literally high-fived me as we walked out of the room. That was pretty fun. Especially when he was a guy that asked if a woman could handle the demonstration. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, well, you guys have my information. If you have challenges, email them to me. So many of you know I'm a big blogger, and I put a lot of posts on LinkedIn. Some of you are like, yeah, I follow you. Please follow me. If you have a problem, don't worry, I won't call you out, but I'll take your problem, write a blog on how to solve it, and share it with everyone else. So I love hearing what your challenges are, because those are my ideas. So please send them to me. Okay, excellent. Thanks, guys.